The 5 Love Languages, Gary Chapman. Have you ever felt that? No matter how hard you try to show love, the other person just doesn't seem to notice. Maybe you're speaking your own love language, but not theirs. Today, I want to invite you to a transformative listening experience based on the book The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, a classic that has changed the way millions of people see their relationships. And make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave your like, because here you'll optimize your knowledge and transform your way of loving with practical and deep lessons. Gary Chapman shows us that, just like spoken languages, each person has a primary emotional language, the way they truly understand and feel loved. It's like trying to speak Portuguese to someone who only understands French. You could say "I love you" over and over, but if it's not in the right language, the message won't get through. Understanding this makes all the difference in relationships, especially in marriage, because it frees us from misinterpretations and unnecessary frustrations. The author explains that passion, that emotional peak that consumes us in the first months, is temporary, lasting at most 2 years, and then gives way to mature love, which needs to be sustained by choice, discipline, and daily effort. True love doesn't run on autopilot. It must be built with intention. To help with this, Chapman presents the 5 love languages, which are ways to strengthen emotional bonds, communicate clearly, and make your partner feel genuinely loved. First language is words of affirmation, perhaps the most accessible of all, because it simply involves saying what we often feel but don't express. How many times have we failed to say, "You look great today," "Thank you for helping me," or "I really admire your effort"? Words have a giant power to uplift, inspire, and heal wounds. Chapman reminds us that verbal compliments and encouraging words cost nothing but are worth a lot to those whose primary language is words of affirmation. One essential detail is sincerity. Saying something just out of obligation with no real feeling behind it won't fill the other person's emotional tank. That's why words of affirmation must be loaded with authenticity. Looking into the other's eyes, truly transmitting what you want to say. Simple phrases can be unforgettable, like "You are the most important person in my life," or "I'm proud of you." And that goes for both good and difficult times. When your partner is feeling down, insecure, or going through a hard phase, the right word can reignite hope, remind them of their strengths, and give them the courage to keep going. Many people think that those who like to hear nice words are fragile, but Chapman breaks this myth. Receiving verbal recognition does not mean emotional dependence. It is a legitimate way of fueling the heart of someone who values the power of words. Those who have this as their primary language feel validated, seen, and respected when they hear words of appreciation. It's as if each compliment were a shot of energy, keeping the feeling of being loved alive. It's also important to know how to use encouraging words, not just compliments. Imagine your spouse has a dormant talent or a hidden dream. Words of encouragement can be the spark they need to take a risk, to try to believe in themselves. You could say, "I believe in your talent," or "I'll support you if you want to give it a try." This kind of communication opens doors and shows real presence, reinforcing the connection even more. In practice, for someone whose primary love language is words of affirmation, small everyday phrases make a difference. A simple "Thanks for picking up the groceries," or "I loved how you solved that problem," fills their heart and reduces the feeling of invisibility. It's not about flattery, but genuine recognition, something we all like to receive, but which for some people is absolutely essential. Gary Chapman emphasizes that loving means deciding every day to feed the other person in the language they will understand. So learning to give words of appreciation is a powerful investment in your relationship, not an insignificant detail. Even those who didn't have the habit of expressing themselves verbally in childhood can learn to practice this skill and see the immediate results in their partner's responses. If you're listening to this book summary now, you may already Feel how these reflections can transform your conversations. Think about this. When was the last time you said something positive, sincere, and direct to the person you love? And how did they react? This simple exercise of remembering moments when you used words of affirmation can help you see the transformational power of this language. Optimized insights from this section. Loving is not enough. You must speak the right language. Words have the power to heal, motivate, and reconnect. Genuine compliments boost self-esteem. Verbal encouragement can awaken hidden talents. Honest recognition creates deep bonds. Now take a deep breath and reflect. Could your partner value your words more than you realized? It's worth paying attention to this in your next conversation. And don't forget, if you haven't yet subscribed or left your like, do it now, because in the rest of this content, you will learn about the next love languages and ensure your message gets through clearly, without noise, to the heart of the person you love. Continuing this journey through the 5 love languages, let's now explore the second language, which is quality time. Gary Chapman makes us reflect that true presence is worth much more than simply being physically close. You can be in the same room as your partner, but if your attention is on your phone, the television, or your work problems, the love is not perceived. Quality time means full presence, undivided attention, and a willingness to listen and share. It is about stopping everything to look into your partner's eyes and say, without words, that they matter. Chapman emphasizes that deep conversations without interruptions, walking side by side, going on small outings, or even sitting on the couch without distractions already count as quality time. And it's not about solving problems, but about being together, feeling emotionally connected. For those whose primary love language is quality time, love is communicated through exclusive dedication and the certainty that they are a priority. It's like saying, I choose you every time you set aside a moment to give them your full attention. Often, in the rush of daily life, we forget that living together can become just routine, and the other person starts to feel empty. Even living in the same house, distance grows when there is no meaningful dialogue. That's why Chapman recommends creating small rituals, having coffee together, going for a Sunday walk, setting aside time to talk about your day. What matters is not the activity itself, but the meaning behind it, showing the person that they are worth your time, presence, and attention. Then we come to the third love language, receiving gifts. Some might say that gifts are superficial, but Gary Chapman shows that they are actually visible symbols of love. When you give something to someone, you show that you thought of them, that you dedicated attention and affection. It doesn't have to be expensive or extravagant. It can be a flower picked along the way, a handwritten note, a simple piece of chocolate. What matters is the gesture, not the financial value. For those who have receiving gifts as their primary language, each object becomes a living reminder that they were remembered, considered, and prioritized. That's why it's so meaningful. And it doesn't help to criticize saying it's just materialism, because for these people, a gift is not about consumption, but about presence. It becomes a symbol, an emotional anchor, bringing back the feeling of being loved every time they see or touch it. Chapman also warns that forgetting special dates or giving generic gifts can deeply hurt those who have this love language. The negative message in these cases is, you don't care about me. So it's worth noticing what your partner values most and investing time to choose something with meaning. Personalized gifts, souvenirs from special moments, small, unexpected treats, all of that matters. It is curious how often we repeat the patterns we learned growing up. If we grew up in homes where gifts were not valued, we might not understand their importance to others. But love, Chapman reminds us, is a choice and a learning process. You can train your awareness, notice what gestures move your partner, and practice this language more naturally over time. And I want to reinforce, each of these love languages is powerful, but only works if practiced with authenticity. There's no point in pretending, doing it out of obligation, or copying standard models the other person will sense when the gesture lacks truth. Loving in the right language requires empathy and humility. To step out of your own comfort zone and into the emotional world of the one you care for. Optimized insights from this section: real presence is worth more than physical proximity. Uninterrupted conversations are acts of love. Gifts represent remembrance and consideration. Small gestures can have great meaning. Love is not measured by price, but by intention. Now reflect. Are you offering enough quality time to the one you love? And when was the last time you gave a gift that really communicated your affection? Think about this and prepare your heart, because in the next part, we'll dive into the last 2 love languages and discover even more ways to strengthen your relationship. It's time to dive deeper into this transformative listening experience. Understanding the 4th and 5th love languages according to Gary Chapman, and thinking about how to apply them in real life. Let's start with the 4th language: acts of service. For those who have this as their primary language, actions speak louder than words. These are people who feel loved when they see their partner doing something concrete to help them. Cooking a meal, cleaning the house, taking the car to the mechanic, changing the baby's diaper, or organizing something that was pending. These gestures, for many, may seem like mere household tasks, but for those who communicate through acts of service, they are clear declarations of love. Chapman explains that it is very common, after marriage, for people to stop doing the small gestures they used to during dating. We slip into autopilot, stop caring for the details, and expect the other person to guess how important they still are. But for those who value acts of service, the absence of these gestures sends a message of neglect. That's why the author encourages observing what your partner values most and getting your hands dirty, without expecting immediate recognition or applause. Love, in this case, is expressed through the willingness to meet daily practical needs with goodwill and attention. Remember that these acts need to come from an open heart, without complaining or a negative attitude. Doing something while grumbling or unwilling loses all positive effect. And it's no use trying to push tasks that you consider important, but mean nothing to the other person. Be not to ask, observe, and understand what really makes a difference. Sometimes, a small gesture, like filling up the car's gas tank, can communicate more love than an expensive present. And now, the 5th love language: physical touch. This may be the most immediate of all, because the skin speaks a silent and powerful language. Physical touch goes far beyond sexual contact. It involves hugs, kisses, caresses, holding hands, placing a hand on the shoulder. Small daily touches that say, "I'm here, I see you, you are not alone." Chapman emphasizes that those with physical touch as their primary language feel deeply hurt by the absence of contact. And it's not enough to have sexual intimacy alone. The consistency of touch in daily life creates security and stability. Just as children develop better when hugged and caressed, adults also need touch to feel loved and welcomed. One important point is sensitivity. What may be pleasant for one person may be uncomfortable for another. So don't fall into the trap of thinking that everything you like will necessarily be good for your partner. Ask, explore, build intimacy and dialogue, and respect the other person's limits. Loving also means respecting their comfort zone. If these love languages sound simple, remember, they are not a magic formula. The greatest challenge is practicing them consistently, letting go of your own way of loving and stepping into the other person's world. That takes empathy, maturity, and humility, essential qualities for any relationship that hopes to last and thrive. By the way, if you haven't yet left your like or subscribed, take this moment now, because this helps me keep bringing you optimized book summaries that accelerate your personal and emotional growth. Chapman reminds us that love is a daily decision, not a passing feeling. It's choosing to show care even when you don't feel like it, to communicate support even when daily life gets tiring, to demonstrate affection in ways the other person truly understands. When we practice this, we build stronger relationships and avoid the frustrations that come from poor communication. Optimized insights from this section. Concrete actions speak louder than promises. Small daily touches build. Emotional safety. Love should be practiced with intentionality. Respecting the other's comfort zone strengthens the connection. Loving is deciding to care. Even on hard days, now take a moment to reflect. Which of these languages do you usually offer, and which one does your partner truly value? The answer might surprise you and already be a step toward improving your communication today. We have reached the moment to tie everything together from this listening experience about the 5 love languages, and I want you to pay attention to every detail, because this part may be the key to applying what you learned in your relationship in a practical and profound way. Gary Chapman reminds us that discovering your own love language and that of your partner is an essential task for transforming marriage or any romantic relationship into something healthier and longer lasting. There's no point in speaking your favorite language if the other person doesn't understand. The result will always be frustration, hurt feelings, and distance. That's why the author suggests simple reflections to help you discover which language makes more sense for the person you love. Observe what they complain about, what they miss, what they ask for most, and how they tend to show affection. Often, the way we express love to others also reveals how we would like to receive it. Chapman also warns about common mistakes: thinking your way of loving fits everyone, or believing that good intentions are enough to be understood. Love needs to be translated. It needs to arrive in the other's emotional language. For example, if your language is physical touch, but your partner values quality time, there's no point showering them with hugs and kisses if you don't reserve time to be present and truly listen. This lack of alignment creates the feeling that love doesn't exist, when in reality, it just wasn't perceived. Another crucial point is not to confuse passion with mature love. Passion is intense, overwhelming, but temporary. It doesn't require conscious effort. Mature love, on the other hand, demands discipline, intention, and decision. It is choosing every day to nourish the other in the language they understand, even if sometimes it feels tiring or challenging. That is what sustains relationships over the years, even after the initial flame has faded. To make it easier, Chapman even suggests tests and practical questions. What hurts you the most when the other fails? What do you repeatedly ask for? What actions warm your heart? Answering these questions can already give you clues about which love language speaks loudest inside you. And it is worth sharing these discoveries with your partner to align expectations, avoiding future disappointments and strengthening your bond. Optimized insights from this section. Love must be translated into the other's language. Passion fades. Conscious love renews itself. Identifying your partner's emotional language prevents hurt tests, and reflections help discover what truly matters. Loving is deciding to care every day, not just when you feel like it. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying with me until the end of this optimized book summary. If you haven't yet subscribed or left your like, do it now, because that makes all the difference for me to continue bringing transformative, practical, and valuable content for your growth. Remember, love is not a finished project, but a living relationship built every day with conscious choices. So before you go to sleep tonight, think, am I communicating my love in the right language? This reflection can completely change the direction of your relationship.